This conference is all about disruption, agility, change. It's time for us to change as a function. So, it's time. It's time for us to have a cultural revolution. It's time for us to step up and lead, and it's time for us to be really innovative in how we do it. Culture is not engagement. Why? Here's why. Because engagement is concerned about the individual, right? It's a predictor of individual performance. Your job in the HR profession today and tomorrow is not simply about individual performance. I call myself a capacity officer because I believe that our role is to build capacity in organizations. And to build capacity, we have to think about the organization holistically. So I think we are in a position to provide much, much better insights to our companies, and we can have it be HR-led. That's a very, very important role that we can play. A very powerful role that we can play that helps us to really get into shaping capacity for our organizations. So, this isn't about a one-time assessment once every year, take the pulse. This is about us doing cultural diagnostics at the right times to really understand how do we propel our business forward in the future. Sustainable businesses today are being disrupted left, right, and centre. Your competitors today are not your competitors tomorrow. The shelf life of a CEO is anywhere between 3 to 5 years, if they're lucky. The shelf life of a product or a service is somewhere between 18 and 36 months. It's a rapidly changing business world that we operate in. And so we can come in and do something very profound and different. So here's how you assess culture. Here's a tool I'm going to talk you through that actually does that. It looks at things through 3 different lenses. The first lens that it looks at is vision and strategy. And here are some of the types of questions you ask. How well do you understand the overall direction of your company? Tell us why you've rated that particular question in that way. Give us your perspective on your answer. And we don't stop there. We then say, if you could give any advice or recommendations on what the company could do around that specific question, what would it be? We ask questions around how clear is the strategy? Do you know what the strategy of your company is? So let's talk about some of the richness of the data that you get through a cultural diagnostic that you don't get through engagement surveys, right? You get scorecards. Scorecards that actually tell you where do you need to prioritize. One of the questions that we ask around culture, last question that we ask at the end is, we've asked you 10 to 12 questions. Now what we'd like you to do is what I call place your bets. So we say you have 10 points in which you can allocate to things that you think are strengths in your company. Pick the questions you want to ask them, and then at the end of them, on the topics that you've asked, say if you had 10 points to allocate onto what you think are strengths within the company, allocate them. You can give them to one thing, to one question, or you can spread them across the number that you've asked. And then do the same for the challenges that you see within the organisation. Why? Because so often we focus on the things that score low. But the things that score low are not necessarily the biggest area or priority for an organisation. When you look at culture and you ask people to place their bets, you may find that what people see as the biggest challenge may not be the lowest score. Because people tend to say, I don't rate this very highly, but if you ask me, and there was only limited resource or time, or that this would make a real difference to the company, then this is what I would say I would focus on. Too many times we do a great job up front, and then we fail to make the connections of all the great work and effort we are doing to address the problems. We somehow assume that our people are just going to make that connection. Well, guess what? They're busy people. If we want to change, it means thinking differently about how we communicate as well. Make things visual, make them impactful. Share the results in a very different way to you've ever done before. Put a mark down to say we are changing, and we're leading the change by how we look at the organisation. We don't have to be lucky. We have bright, talented people in our profession, and we can't continue the rhetoric that we've heard for the last 20 years about why HR isn't where it should be. Let's own our own futures. We're the only ones that can change it, and we can only change it if we agree to innovate. And what a better way to innovate than through the culture of the organisation. It's a fabulous way to start.